Charter of Fundamental Rights, Chapters and Comparisons. The European Union (EU) Charter of Fundamental Rights is a legally binding document that consolidates fundamental rights for people living in the EU. Its primary purpose is to protect human dignity, freedom, equality and solidarity, and to ensure that EU institutions respect these rights. The Charter is divided into 7 chapters: dignity, freedoms, equality, solidarity, citizens' rights, justice, and general provisions, each addressing a different aspect of human rights and providing both citizens and institutions with clear guidance on their responsibilities. The Dignity chapter guarantees the right to life, prohibits torture, slavery, and inhuman treatment, and establishes the foundational principle that every person must be treated with respect. These rights serve as the cornerstone of the Charter and underpin all other freedoms. The Freedoms chapter protects individual liberties such as freedom of thought, conscience, religion, expression, assembly, and privacy, including the protection of personal data. This chapter limits state interference in personal life, ensuring that EU citizens can participate fully in democratic and civic life without undue restrictions. The Equality chapter promotes fairness and non-discrimination, protecting vulnerable groups such as children, the elderly, and people with disabilities, and actively encouraging gender equality. It requires that laws and policies be applied equally, demonstrating the EU's commitment to social justice. The Solidarity chapter encompasses social and economic rights, including workers' rights, social security, health and safety, and environmental protection, emphasising that member states must cooperate to safeguard citizens' welfare in a socially responsible manner. Citizens' rights are specific to individuals holding EU citizenship, including the right to vote in European and local elections, the right to access EU documents, and the right to petition EU institutions. These rights strengthen democratic participation and transparency within EU governance. The Justice chapter ensures legal protections such as the right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence, and access to legal aid, guaranteeing that individuals can defend their rights effectively. The General Provisions chapter clarifies how the Charter operates, stating that its rights apply to EU institutions and to member states when implementing EU law, without creating new EU powers. When compared to other international charters, such as the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, the EU Charter shares many similarities, including protection of human dignity, freedom, and equality. However, the EU Charter differs in being legally binding within the EU, meaning that citizens can directly invoke it in courts, whereas the ECHR and UDHR primarily provide guidelines and require states to implement them voluntarily. Another distinction is the inclusion of specific citizens' rights for EU membership, which other charters do not address. In conclusion, The EU Charter of Fundamental Rights combines universal principles with enforceable legal obligations, ensuring that all citizens' rights are respected and upheld across the Union. Its 7 chapters provide clarity on what citizens are entitled to, how institutions must act, and how rights are protected in practice. By comparing the Charter with other major human rights instruments, we see that it uniquely integrates universal human rights principles with the specific legal framework of the EU, making it a vital instrument for both protection and participation. Questions. Listen to the questions and record your answer on your device. Then listen to yourself speak in English. Don't like your answer? Not to worry. Simply delete and do it again until you're happy with your English. And remember, practice makes perfect. Questions 1 to 10, listening/understanding 1. How many chapters are in the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights? 2. What rights are included in the Dignity chapter? 3. Which freedoms are protected in the Freedoms chapter? 4. Who benefits from the Equality chapter? 5. What social rights are included in the Solidarity chapter? 6. Name 2 citizens' rights mentioned in the essay. 7. What does the Justice chapter guarantee? 8. What is the purpose of the General Provisions chapter? 9. Which other 2 charters are compared with the EU Charter? 10. What is one key difference between the EU Charter and the ECCHR or UDHR? Questions 11 to 15, guessing/inference. 11. Why might the EU include a chapter on citizens' rights that other charters do not? 12. Why is solidarity important in a union of countries like the EU? 13. How does the EU Charter strengthen equality compared to general international charters? 14. Why are general provisions needed in a legal document like the Charter? 15. How does the Charter's legally binding nature affect EU citizens' protections?